Alright, so here's a rundown of current wildlife and biology research stories from this past week. First are the cows. What do crows, chimps, and cows have in common? They've all been caught using tools. A new animal behavior study just documented something scientists have never formally described before, which is cows deliberately using objects in their environments like tools. Not accidentally, not randomly, but on purpose. Not porpoise, purpose. Researchers observed cattle repeatedly positioning their bodies to use a fixed brush to scratch those hard-to-reach spots, adjusting angle, pressure, and timing. And one lovely cow named Veronica even holds the broom handle in her mouth to scratch that itch. That matters because in animal behavior, tool use means manipulating an external object to achieve a goal. We usually associate tool use with quote-unquote smart animals, such as primates, parrots, corvids, and sea otters. But cows? This challenges the idea that livestock behavior is simple or purely instinctual. It suggests more flexible problem solving than we give them credit for. And this isn't just a fun fact, although it is. It feeds into bigger conversations about animal cognition, welfare, and how we design environments for domestic animals. This is something I used to think a lot about as a zookeeper back in the olden days. Okay, so sometimes intelligence doesn't look like solving puzzles. It looks like scratching your back really effectively. Next up is a story about cheetahs. Scientists recently discovered mummified cheetahs in what is now Saudi Arabia. And no, these aren't museum oddities or old zoo specimens. They're naturally preserved remains that show cheetahs once lived across regions where they've become completely absent from today. And just a side note, kind of cool, cheetahs once roamed the mountain meadows and prairies of North America around 10,000 years ago. Fossils have been found in California, Colorado, Texas, Florida, and even Canada. But anyway, by analyzing the bones and preserved tissues, researchers were able to confirm that cheetahs historically occupied much more of the Arabian Peninsula than we realized, long before modern population crashes. Cheetahs today have lost about 90% of their historic home range in just the past 150 years, leading to the silent killer of a genetic population bottleneck. These remains help scientists reconstruct ancient ranges, understand how cheetahs adapted to arid environments, and even tease apart which subspecies lived where. Information that's incredibly valuable for modern conservation planning. In other words, these mummified cheetahs aren't just a glimpse into the past, they're data points that can influence how, where, and if cheetahs could ever return to parts of their former home range. Sometimes conservation doesn't start with the future, it starts by listening very carefully to the dead. Okay, this next story is super cool. Mosquitoes don't prefer humans because we're delicious, they prefer us because we are what's left. A recent study from Brazil's Atlantic forest found that as forests are cleared and wildlife disappears, mosquitoes are increasingly feeding on human blood instead. Researchers trapped wild mosquitoes and analyzed their blood meals, and what they saw was a clear shift. Fewer bites on animals, but more bites on people, especially near deforested and fragmented forest edges. In intact ecosystems, mosquitoes spread their bites across lots of species, birds, mammals, reptiles. But when biodiversity collapses, that natural buffer disappears, and humans become the most abundant, reliable host. And that matters because mosquitoes transmit diseases like dengue, Zika, and yellow fever. Yummy. And every human bite is a chance for those pathogens to spread. So this isn't just about annoying insects. It's a reminder that deforestation doesn't always just remove trees, it rewires ecosystems in ways that come back to bite us. Literally. When forests shrink, mosquitoes don't disappear, they adapt, and they adapt straight towards us. I initially looked into this phenomenon after I heard the conservationist Paul Rosalie talking about it on a recent podcast. Highly recommend him and his book, Mother of God. All right, I hope you enjoyed this science news update.